Welcome to another day of learning math and science. Today we're going to learn about motion, sound, and light. We're going to solve marine-related problems involving motion, sound, and light. Motion, sound, and light are fundamental aspects of physics and perception, each with their unique characteristics and roles in our experience of the world. In technology and engineering, motion, light, and sound sensors detect changes in these elements, used in fields ranging from automation to medical imaging to environmental monitoring. Related to this, we have kinematics. Kinematics is a study of motion. Motion refers to the change in an object's position over time relative to a reference point. It's a fundamental concept in physics that involves speed, velocity, and acceleration. Newton's laws of motion describe how forces interact with objects to produce motion. Light is a form of electromagnetic radiation visible to the human eye, ranging from around 400 to 700 nanometers in wavelength. Light allows us to see and perceive color. It plays a key role in photosynthesis, energy transfer, and countless technologies. On the other hand, sound is a type of mechanical wave caused by vibrations traveling through a medium, like air, water, or solids. It is characterized by frequency or pitch, amplitude or loudness, and speed depending on the medium. Sound is crucial for communication, navigation, as in echolocation for some animals, and entertainment. Some common examples of animals using echolocation are bats and some marine animals. First, let's discuss the Newton's law of motion. So the Newton's laws of motion are three fundamental principles that describe the relationship between the motion of an object and the forces acting on it. Newton's law of motion are foundational in classic mechanics, and they explain how objects move in response to various forces. The first law of motion is called the law of inertia. It states that an object at rest will stay at rest, and an object in motion will continue moving at a constant velocity unless acted upon by an external force. This law emphasizes that an object resists changes in its state of motion. This resistance to change is called inertia. For example, if you push a stationary ball, it will only start to move if sufficient force overcomes its inertia. The law of inertia, also known as Newton's first law of motion, states that an object will remain in its current state of position whether it is at rest or moving in a straight line at a constant velocity unless it is acted upon by an external force. The Newton's second law of motion, or the law of acceleration, states that the acceleration of an object is directly proportional to the net force acting on it and inversely proportional to its mass. This can be mathematically expressed as F equals m times a, where F is the net force applied, m is the mass of the object, and a is the acceleration produced. This law shows that an object's acceleration depends on two things: the magnitude of force applied and the object's mass. A heavier object requires more force to accelerate than a lighter object. Again, let us take note of this important equation. Force equals mass times acceleration. Force is usually measured in newtons, mass is usually measured in kilograms, and acceleration is usually measured in meters per second square. For example, when pushing a shopping cart, if you push a shopping cart with a certain force, it accelerates. If the cart is empty or it has low mass, it accelerates quickly. But if the shopping cart is full, it means that it has a higher mass. Therefore, it accelerates slower for the same push or for the same force. Newton's third law of motion, or also known as action and reaction, states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This law explains that the forces always come in pairs. If one object exerts a force on the other, the second object exerts an equal and opposite force back on your first object. For example, when you push against a wall, the wall pushes back with an equal force in the opposite direction of where you are pushing. Here's an example that maritime students will relate to. A vessel accelerates faster if it has more powerful engine applying greater force. However, a heavier vessel requires more force to achieve the same acceleration as a lighter one. So this law is essential for understanding how objects move and respond to forces in everyday life and in various fields like engineering and physics. These three laws together provide a comprehensive framework for understanding and predicting the motion of objects in classical mechanics. Now, let us discuss some sample problems using motion. For example, a tugboat with a mass of 7 metric tons. Take note, 1 metric ton is equal to 1,000 kilograms. Accelerates at a rate of 10 meters per second squared. What is the force exerted by the engine to produce this acceleration? Now, we are given mass, which is 7 metric tons or 7,000 kilograms based on our computation or our conversion. Acceleration is 10 meters per second squared. We are asked to find we're required of the force. Now, to solve for force, we have mass times acceleration. Mass is 7,000 kilograms, and acceleration is 10 meters per second squared. Multiply them, we get 70,000 kilograms meter per second squared, or that is 70,000 newtons. Second example, a boat experiences a force of 12,000 newtons while accelerating at a rate of 4 meters per second squared. What is the mass of the boat? So from the problem, we are given a force of 12,000 newtons and an acceleration of 4 meters per second squared. We are asked to find the mass. Now we know that force equals mass times acceleration. We do transformation of formula to find the formula for mass. Hence, we get mass equals force over acceleration. From this formula, we substitute our given information. We have 12,000 newtons, which is the force divided by acceleration of 4 meters per second squared. We get 3,000 kilograms for the mass. Next example. A motorboat has a mass of 2,000 kilograms and its engine produces a net force of 5,000 newtons to propel it forward. What is the acceleration of the boat? From the problem, we are given a mass of 2,000 kilograms and a force of 5,000 newtons, and we're required to look for the acceleration. Again, to solve for acceleration, we know that force equals mass times acceleration. Again, we transform this formula to find an equation for acceleration, or A. And we get A equals force divided by mass. We use this formula and substitute our given 5,000 newtons divided by 2,000 kilograms. And we get 2.5 meters per second squared, which is our acceleration. Now, let's practice. If you want to solve this problem, you may pause this video. A cargo ship with a mass of 280,250 kilograms accelerates at 8 meters per second squared. What is the force exerted by its engines? We're given a mass of 280,250 kilograms and an acceleration of 8 meters per second squared, and we're asked to find the force. Again, force is mass times acceleration. That's 280,250 kilograms times 8 meters per second squared. We get 2,242,000 newtons. Did you get it right? Let's move to the next one. Again, you may pause this video if you want to solve it. What is the force applied by the engine of a tugboat with a mass of 325,000 kilograms and accelerates at 18 meters per second squared? Let's solve. We know that mass is 325,000 kilograms and acceleration is 18 meters per second squared. We're required of the force, hence we have force equals mass times acceleration. Substitute the given information, we get 325,000 kilograms times 18 meters per second squared. We get 5,850,000 newtons. Did you get it right? Let's move to the next one. Again, please pause this video if you want to practice solving. The ship's engine initially at rest exerts a constant force of 540,000 newtons. What is the acceleration of a ship with a mass of 280,200 kilograms? Again, from this problem, we have mass, which is 280,200 kilograms, and a force of 540 newtons. To solve for acceleration, we transform the formula F equals mass times acceleration, and we get A equals F over M. Substitute, we have 540,000 newtons divided by 280,200 kilograms. Hence, we get an acceleration of 1.93 meters per second squared. Did you get it right? Let's move to the next sample. A tugboat with a mass of 170,500 kilograms accelerates at a rate of 18 meters per second squared. What is the force exerted by the engine to produce this acceleration? From this problem, we are given mass of 170,500 kilograms and an acceleration of 18 meters per second squared. We're asked to find the force. So we have force equals mass times acceleration. That's 170,500 kilograms times 18. So we get 3,069,000 newtons. And lastly, a boat experiences a force of 240,700 newtons while accelerating at a rate of 8 meters per second squared. What is the mass of the boat? Now, from this problem, we are given acceleration, which is 8 meters per second squared, and a force of 240,700 newtons. We are asked to find the mass. Again, to solve for mass, we have the formula F equals m times A, and we generate or transform the formula to get m equals force over acceleration. Now, substitute our given information here. We have 240,700 newtons divided by 8 meters per second squared. We get 30,087.5 kilograms. I hope you got it right. Next, a motorboat has a mass of 35,750 kilograms and its engine produces a net force of 6,500 newtons rather to propel it forward. What is the acceleration of the boat? From this, we have a given of 35,750 kilograms and a force of 60,500 newtons. We're asked to find acceleration. To solve for acceleration, we transform our formula F equals m times a to get a equals F over m. So we have 60,500 newtons divided by 35,750 kilograms. We get an acceleration of 1.692 meters per second squared. Okay? To practice more, your assignment is to solve these three problems. Again, to practice more, your assignment is to solve these three problems. If you want to check, here are the answers. If you want to practice more, here are some problems that you can practice on. Now, let's talk about hydrodynamics. The water at the top of the falls passes through a narrow slot, causing the velocity to increase at that point. In physics, we call this hydrodynamics. Hydrodynamics deals with the study of fluids in motion. The rate of flow R, or sometimes Q, is defined as the volume of a fluid that passes a certain cross-section A per unit of time. So the volume V of a fluid is given by the product area and VT. So V is equal to area times V, or velocity times T. Now here's an illustration of a pipe. Now to solve for the rate of flow, or R, we have AVT divided by time per unit time. Hence, we only get V times A. Hence, rate of flow is equal to velocity times the area, or the cross-sectional area. For an incompressible frictionless fluid, the velocity increases when the cross-section decreases. For example, water flows through a rubber hose 2 centimeters in diameter at a velocity of 4 meters per second. What must be the diameter of the nozzle in order that the water emerge at 60 meters per second? Now, the area is proportional to the square of the diameter. So, the second diameter must be 0.1 meters. This is according to Bernoulli's theorem, which tells us that at any 2 points along a streamline in an ideal fluid in steady flow, the sum of the pressure, the potential energy per unit volume, and the kinetic energy per unit volume have the same value. Now let's focus on the rate of flow. The rate of flow is the product of the liquid speed and the cross-sectional area of the pipe. Hence, we have the formula Q, or rate of flow, equals cross-sectional area times velocity, where area for circular pipes could be pi times d squared over 4 if you are given the diameter, or it could be pi r squared if you're given the radius, where Q is the rate of flow, A refers to the area of the cross-section, D is the diameter, and R is the radius. Take note of this important formula. Let's solve some examples. A cargo ship is taking in ballast water through a pipe with a diameter of 0.25 meters. The rate of flow is 0.375 cubic meters per second. What is the speed of the water entering the pipe? Now we are given a diameter of 0.25 meters, or that is a radius of 0.125 meters. Rate of flow is 0.375 meters or cubic meters per second. We are asked to find the velocity. Now to solve for velocity, we have the formula rate of flow equals cross-sectional area times velocity. Transform this formula and we get velocity equals rate of flow divided by cross-sectional area. So rate of flow is 0.375 cubic meters per second and cross-sectional area is pi, that's 3.1416 r squared. That is 0.125 meters squared. So solving this, we get 7.639 meters per second. Hence, the velocity is 7.639 meters per second. Next, a cargo ship is discharging ballast water through a cylindrical pipe at a rate of 0.415 cubic meters per second. The velocity of water exiting the pipe is 2.85 meters per second. What is the diameter of the pipe used for discharge? Now, from this, we are given a velocity of 2.85 meters per second and a rate of flow, which is 0.415 cubic meters per second. We are asked of the diameter. Now, to solve for our area first. So, we know that rate of flow is area times volume, or velocity rather. So, to solve for area, we have rate of flow divided by velocity. So, we have 0.415 cubic meters per second divided by 2.85 meters per second. We get 0.145 meters squared, or 0.146 could also be an answer. Now, from this, we have 0.145 meters squared. We know that area is pi times d squared over 4. Transform this formula to get d. Okay, so d squared is 4a divided by pi. So, we get 4 times 0.145 divided by 3.1416. Hence, we get a diameter of, that's d squared, of 0.185 meters squared. That's d squared. So to get d, we still have to find the square root of 0.185. So get the square root of 0.185, we get 0.43. Okay, or 0.43. 43 meters. Therefore, we say that the diameter is 0.43 meters. Next, a ship's engine cooling system circulates water through a tube with a diameter of 4 meters. What is the rate of flow of the cooling water if it flows at an average speed of 32 centimeters per second? So that is, to clarify, the diameter is 4 centimeters, not 4 meters. So we're given a diameter of 4 centimeters and a velocity of 32 centimeters per second. We're required of the rate of flow. Okay, take note that Q is A times V and A is pi d squared over 4. So first, let's solve for A. We have 3.1416 times 4 centimeters squared divided by 4. Hence, we get an area of 12.566 meters squared. To continue, to solve for rate of flow, we multiply the area, which is 12.566 centimeters squared. Okay, that is centimeter squared, times the velocity of 32 centimeters per second. We get 402.112 cubic centimeters per second. Hence, that is our rate of flow. Next, a cargo ship is taking in ballast water through a pipe with a diameter of 0.375 meters. The rate of flow is 1.25 cubic meter per second. What is the speed of the water entering the pipe? So we know that the given information are as follows. The diameter is 0.375 meters, or that is a radius of 0.1875 meters. The rate of flow is 1.25 meters cubed per second. We're asked to find the velocity. Hence, to solve for V, we have Q equals AV, or V is Q divided by A. So we divide the rate of flow, 1.25 cubic meters per second, by the area. That's pi r squared, or 3.1416, times 0.1875 squared. Now, using your calculator, we divide and we get 11.32 meters per second. A cargo ship is taking in ballast water through a pipe with a diameter of 3.315 meters. The rate of flow is 0.525 cubic meters per second. What is the speed of the water entering the pipe? Again, we know that the diameter is 0.315 meters, or that is a radius of 0.1575 meters. And a rate of flow, which is 0.525 cubic meters per second. To solve for V, we have V equals Q divided by A. That is 0.525 cubic meters per second divided by the area, which is given by pi r squared, or 3.1416 times 0.1575 squared. We get 6.737 meters per second. Now, for part B of your assignment, solve these two problems. Again, for part B of your assignment, solve these two problems. That's it for the lesson for today. Thank you for listening.